Everyone, Dr. B here. Again, thank you for joining me for another episode of Ask the Dentist. Today's going to be a small bite, what we call a small bite, just a very small vertical subject, but this one's going to pack a punch. I think it's going to surprise you. I've been doing a lot of research on saliva. Dr. Stacy and I just came out with a course on resetting the oral microbiome, and saliva is one of the big pillars of oral microbiome health. And anyway, alongside this or with this research, I kind of started wondering about all these electrolytes that we are missing. I recommend trace elements. It's a few drops in the water, but that's just for cramping muscles and good overall health. But every time you look up a study on saliva, you will see a review of saliva, and you'll notice that you'll read that one of the major components of saliva, other than its water content, which is pretty much all of it, but of all the other ingredients, proteins and enzymes, one of them is minerals. And you've heard me say that minerals are very important. It's the hydroxyapatite mineral that is in saliva that we get from our food, that comes out of our blood supply from the serum, which is the blood supply, into a saliva gland, and then it comes out into the oral cavity as saliva. Saliva and blood are very similar, minus a few components. They, in many ways, have similar purposes in the body as well. Although, again, very unique part of the body, the mouth, there are a few very unique reasons we have saliva in the mouth. So minerals are this normal, substance that is in saliva, and you're going to see hydroxyapatite, which is biomimetic. It is what our teeth are made up of, and that's where most of the hydroxyapatite comes from that is in our teeth, at least after the tooth is formed. Teeth are always breaking down, they're demineralizing, and then it's the content of the same material that is found in saliva that is helping remineralize and patch up the teeth after a meal. This is a concept that you've heard me talk about a lot. It's that equilibrium of demineralization versus remineralization. If you eat too many carby foods, it doesn't have to be just candy or sugar. It can be processed flour and wheat. Those foods will take your teeth down, essentially. It's just too much for the body to remineralize the teeth after the teeth are demineralizing as they're exposed to the acids that are produced by eating these foods. Again, that's a very simplistic kind of overview of it. I'll give you a link to more information on that. We've talked recently, a few episodes ago, about the Stefan's curve. If you eat and snack all day on these foods, your teeth are demineralizing more than they are remineralizing. But anyway, I digress. So let's get back to electrolytes. Electrolytes are a very popular category now in health products. You go to Amazon, you've got just a plethora of choices, a little overwhelming. There are some leaders in that category and a lot of followers. And I'm going to talk to you about what one of my favorite brands is and why. But let's first talk about why electrolytes may be good for the oral health category. Obviously, electrolytes are important for cramps, muscle efficiency. If you're an athlete and you're sweating a lot, perspiring a lot, I mean, you may just be a mom or dad chasing after the kids all day. There are many different ways of perspiring, certainly, or just a brisk walker every day. Maybe you live in a very warm part of the planet, which seems to be almost all of it these days. If you're perspiring, you definitely need to replace electrolytes. And the question is why aren't we getting this in our food? I've talked about that a lot. That's why I recommend the trace minerals, the drops that I put in my water. Our diet is deficient in minerals. It's just not in the soil. It doesn't get into the vegetables that we eat. There are minerals in meats and other foods. But again, our diet is not what our ancestors ate. It is a completely different diet, even though we're trying to, pasture our livestock and grass feed them and put them on the right diet and farm biodynamically. These are all things that we're now doing in response to the knowledge that we have really messed up our food supply. So anyway, so the good news is that we can put a lot of this stuff back into our diet, and we can do it safely. The question is how much, and which brand to use. The other thing I wanted to mention is, okay, so in general, electrolytes are important for muscle recovery, muscle strength, speed of reaction, and then there's also a neurological component to having electrolytes. And again, electrolytes are pretty damn important. I mean, again, magnesium, without magnesium, we would be dead. Magnesium and a lot of other minerals, including a lot that are found in electrolytes. And I'm talking about sodium, potassium, chloride, calcium, phosphate. You hear me talk a lot about phosphate in conjunction with hydroxyapatite. In fact, hydroxyapatite has a phosphate molecule in it. These are all important for every cell in the body to do what it's supposed to do. Without them, we wouldn't be here. It helps with getting nutrients back and forth past the cell wall. And there are many other purposes and reasons we need minerals. So, but that list I just read to you, those just happen to be the main inorganic components of saliva. Again, sodium, potassium, chloride, calcium, phosphate. They can combine in different ways. I'm just reading off the bare components, molecules, and bicarbonate a little bit. Hence my recommendations for drinking Pellegrino, which I'm doing a lot more of lately. That helps a lot too. But all of these minerals that you find in saliva that are naturally found in saliva, they contribute to what's called the ionic strength of saliva. Hard to describe, but I'll mention it. So the ionic strength of a solution is essentially determined by how many minerals it's able to dissolve and then give away due to different charges. And again, this is how minerals help all the pathways in biochemistry. It's important to have this dissolved in solution. So one thing I would like to see in toothpaste, again, you've heard me say this, is a ideal paste without emulsifiers and surfactants and all the chemicals that we know are bad in toothpaste, including fluoride. Fluoride is not a mineral per se. It's an element, but it's important in that toothpaste to have all the right minerals in solution so that when it goes in the mouth, it gets dissolved into the saliva more readily. And then when those are present in saliva, and again, saliva has to be the right consistency. You can't be dehydrated. You can't have very, very thick, ropey saliva. You want it to be very runny and viscous, but it can't be too thinned out. You can drink too much water. You can drink too many or take in too many electrolytes. You want that to be optimal so that when the tooth needs that package of minerals, namely hydroxyapatite, then it's there. There's an ionic charge to it, an electrical charge. The tooth has an opposite charge, and those two, the mineral comes out of solution and bonds onto the tooth. That's what I mean by ionic strength, or maybe ionic integrity is a better word. So anyway, so saliva is important. Minerals in saliva are important. How does this tie to what I said earlier about this big electrolyte kind of fad? It's not a fad, but it's now in vogue, thank goodness. This is something that we don't have in our diet, and we need in our diet because we need it in our saliva for salivary health, or that ionic strength or integrity that I was referring to. So again, access to calcium and phosphate or hydroxyapatite is of importance, is of great importance for remineralization of tooth surfaces after what we call the acid challenge or the acid attack. So again, in review, very simply said, the acid attack comes after a meal. If you're going to bite on a piece of raw broccoli, there is no acid attack. The bacteria, it's a complex cellulose, it's fiber, it's difficult to break down. The excrement or the byproduct of their metabolism, the bacteria in your mouth, the oral microbiome, whether they're good bugs or bad bugs, that's another whole story. there just isn't a lot of that product of their metabolism. It's excrement. And that excrement is very low in pH. It's an acid. And if you, conversely, if you feed it a saltine cracker, goldfish, candy, very highly processed breads, the acid attack is huge. It's much stronger because there's more acid being excreted because they're able to break down these highly refined foods. We've made it easy for the bacteria to consume these foods, hence they are able to do it more of it and quicker. So the concentration of acid in after a meal like that, and this happens within minutes of consuming of these types of foods, that demineralizes the teeth. And of course, the mechanism that we have in place to remineralize the teeth has a tough time in trying to fix that. So the pH is very important. If you do have a low pH saliva, let's say pHs can drop to 2.9. I'm not talking about low pH or acidic drinks. That's another whole insult to the mouth and to teeth. But I'm just talking about, you've got a neutral pH in the mouth. You feed on a handful of just a palm or a handful of goldfish, and within minutes the pH drops in your mouth and the teeth are demineralizing. The calcium ions, phosphorus ions, all of those, that ionic kind of equation is being disrupted, and a lot of these minerals are being pulled out of the tooth and none are being pulled back into the tooth. Now, as soon as you stabilize the pH, there's something called critical pH. I won't get into that, but there's a crossover point where the no ions are lost, no ions are gained, no minerals are moving back and forth. You cross past that, and then all of a sudden you're closer to a neutral pH, and then all of a sudden the body is able to take, or the teeth are able to take up minerals and repair themselves. So obviously you want to stay in a neutral pH, stay away from foods that drop you quickly into a low pH situation. So again, how does this get back to electrolytes? Well, all those, for example, if you read the packet of a very popular brand, you'll see that it has sodium chloride in it, magnesium malate, potassium chloride. There are some other brands that add more types of minerals, but these are minerals that we should have in our saliva. And most of us are dehydrated in today's world. We're drinking too many beverages from Starbucks. I'm guilty of that. I drink a lot of unsweetened green tea, organic, love it. But those are all diuretics. Alcohol certainly is. Very sugary drinks can indirectly have a diuretic effect. So we're urinating a lot, losing a lot of blood volume, hydration, and we're not really good at refilling that or sensing the need to redo that. Our thirst reflex has some issues. It gets worse as you get older, by the way, and more is going out, less is coming in, and we run around in a state of dehydration. That affects your saliva. Saliva is produced by the saliva glands. There are tons of them. There are 6 major ones and lots of little accessory saliva glands. They all have different purposes, but overall, they're all producing saliva, which is key for oral microbiome health, to be able to swallow, to be able to maintain the pH. It's a buffer in the mouth to react to those low pH moments by producing more saliva. That's why it's important to chew xylitol gum after an acid attack. That helps because it stimulates saliva flow. But it's important to realize that if you're dehydrated, you're producing a thicker, more viscous, a thicker saliva, and you're getting less minerals into your oral cavity, into that oral environment, and that's not a good thing. So hydration is very important. If you're an athlete, as I said before, it doesn't take much, but if you're sweating during the day, due to activity, or even because you're sitting in a very warm room, you are more likely to be dehydrated. That will affect your ability to fix your teeth, your body's ability to remineralize teeth. You need these minerals in solution in your saliva for things to go well in your mouth. This is just a fact. We have lots of saliva studies. They go way back to the 60s. This is nothing new. One of the key components of saliva is its mineral content, and I really do believe that we are low in minerals because our environment, what we're taking in is not the same as it was maybe pre-agrarian times. We used to play out in the dirt. We used to swallow it, inhale it. These are all sources of minerals that are very, very important. We're not getting that amount, the proper amount. So that is why I do recommend an electrolyte company products. I do recommend this company. I did reach out to them. I did a lot of research. I don't like the tablets. Anytime you see a hardened tablet, there are binders in it and materials in there to allow it to be a hard tablet. I also like to be able to put in as much as I need. I will use one packet. A packet's about $1.50, and that will give me 2 of these during the day. A lot of people are concerned about too much sodium intake. I wouldn't worry about that. We're pretty much all running low in sodium in our environment. If you have a heart condition, certainly speak with your physician about this. Sodium, potassium are very important for that cardiac muscle. Again, back to muscle function, but also neurons. The neurological system relies on minerals for communicating. It allows the neurons to send that impulse down that nerve channel. Again, that's an ionic kind of plus minus kind of base system. So again, minerals are great. I'm not sure if the word is messengers, but they are components that facilitate this kind of passing of nutrients through cellular ion channels, they're called, but cellular channels through the cell wall. So I don't want to get too much into biochemistry, but anyway, so I did reach out to this company, Element. I am a big fan of the founder, Rob Wolf. I'm a big fan of paleo. That's where I've gotten a lot of my information early on, 5-10 years ago, about the paleo movement. Paleo diets, I read somewhere in a study, I was surprised. They do recommend that you really watch and supplement with minerals. I found that to be interesting. It probably has to do with the protein amount that we're taking in a paleo diet. I will add one thing. So I think this is very important for oral health, for health of the oral microbiome. All the bacteria in the mouth need to be in this mineral-rich environment. I'm on a diet. I do that occasionally. I need to lose a few pounds. My 2 key components in a diet are massive amounts of protein, especially in the morning. I'll do a smoothie in the morning, 50 to 60 grams of protein, collagen-based protein, added in with some whey to get that complete protein. So I've noticed that suppresses my appetite for the rest of the day. I keep going with the protein. And then another thing that suppresses my appetite is drinking electrolytes. I'm not sure what that's all about. I can give you some idea, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now. But I do think that our bodies are, when we eat, when we get that hunger impulse, our bodies are reaching out for certain things. I think definitely it's protein. So if you throw a lot of protein at it, the satiation response is your body's satisfied. That hunger response after eating carbs will go away. Your blood sugar levels will certainly will stabilize, which is great if you have gum disease or bleeding gums. But mineral content, I think our bodies are also craving minerals. And I notice I feel a lot better when I am ingesting electrolytes and minerals in general. So anyway, I highly recommend that you try electrolytes. Now, one added point here, you're not going to drink this and then swish with it like a mouthwash. You can do that, and that's fine. That's not a bad thing to do. In fact, a lot of minerals in water help stabilize the acidity of tap water. A lot of tap water, even after you filter it, is slightly on the acidic side. There are many reasons for that. In my previous home, I had tap water, which I filtered, but one day I measured the pH, and the pH was 5.9 to 6.1. And that's right around that critical pH marker that I mentioned earlier. So that was pretty shocking. But since then, I've measured a lot of different tap waters, and that's not out of the norm. You really want a pH water of 7 or higher. Pellegrino is a great, I have no affiliation with them. Other than my Italian heritage, I would say definitely drink Pellegrino water. It comes in a glass bottle that you can recycle. It's a great habit. First thing in the morning, drink a glass of Pellegrino water. But it's important to have minerals in water because that ups the alkalinity of the water. That's how it works. A lot of these filters are pulling out minerals. In fact, they're measuring dissolved particles. Some water filters will sell you, or when you purchase their pitcher, they'll sell you provide a little TDS meter, total dissolved solids. And that is an indication of how well the filter is working, which is true. It's filtering everything out, but you don't want to filter out minerals. You want to, so if you're using distilled water, for example, or if your filter is very good at having very low TDS using that meter, that means you have to add back minerals. So you can certainly add back the minerals, and that will help a lot, certainly with distilled water. But I do think our body is craving a certain amount of, again, it's an essential nutrient. It runs the whole show. It kind of powers the whole metabolism and communication, cellular respiration, and the function of the cell, which is the smallest functioning organ. I mean, it's an organelle. But this is what helps keep us going. We definitely need to take care of that part of our body, the cells. They need to thrive. But anyway, adding minerals will improve the alkalinize increase the pH of your water. And that is helpful. That is very helpful for remineralization. So there's another reason you'd want to add that. But anyway, what was I saying? So you can drink it and swish with it, that's fine. But really, it's about systemic ingestion. It gets absorbed through the gut. It goes into your blood supply. It gets used where it needs to be throughout the body. And then when the saliva gland needs minerals, when it's making saliva, which it will do on its own, you don't have to worry. As long as those building blocks are there, it will integrate and pull from the blood supply, and it will bring those minerals into saliva. And when your saliva glands excrete saliva, which is typically before every meal, but there is a default setting because you need saliva during the day. At night, that kind of goes down a little bit. I recommend drinking your electrolytes in the morning, or the Pellegrino water, for example. The saliva is full of minerals at that point of time. If you have it in your system, you have to ingest it. It has to be part of your diet. So anyway, I hope that is of some help. I would recommend trying this. It's part of your oral health care regimen. It's part of the equation in helping remineralize your teeth. It's part of the equation in stabilizing pH of your saliva, which obviously is good for your oral microbiome. As you've heard me say, if you've taken our course on resetting the oral microbiome is everything when it comes to oral health. It is responsible for being able to ward off gum disease, cavities, bad breath, halitosis, a host of other things, even canker sores, minerals in saliva. There was a study I read yesterday, rather recent one, on how it helps stabilize the oral mucosa. It's a one cell thick lining, much like the gut. And those minerals actually are good for that lining. So if you get canker sores a lot, I would be upping your intake of electrolytes and minerals. So anyway, I hope that was of some help. Small bite, but big bite in the end. I mean, a kind of a bigger bang for your buck than you would think, just by taking one simple little supplement. I hate calling it a supplement because in the old days, we didn't have to supplement. It's not a supplement. It's something that we need. It should be guaranteed, but it's not guaranteed in our diet, in our current environment. So it has now become a supplement. But anyway, I think you'll hear more about Element. I've been accepted to be as a sponsor. I'm excited about that. I don't really have a sponsor for this podcast, but I'm excited because I really am very excited about this concept. This is so important. It has been overlooked in oral health and in treatment as a dentist with our patients. I wish we could measure this. There are ways of measuring it, of course, but in the office, it gets a little tricky. So I would love to hear about what you think about this. Leave me, if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a review below or a comment below. But you can always reach out to me at mark@AskTheDentist.com. If you're looking for a functional provider that won't laugh at you when you're asking about this kind of thing, go to our directory. It's at AskTheDentist.com/directory. And again, this is the functional approach. It's thinking big picture. What are the things that we are missing, that we have been missing in the dental curriculum? What have we not been passing on to you? And this is, again, for a small bite, I think this has a very wonderful kind of global circumstances beyond just the mouth. But we always talk about muscle recovery and overall well-being, and how about the mouth? We always forget about the impacts of our environment on the mouth. This is a perfect example. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Thank you so much for your interest in oral health, and would love to hear more about what you think of this and what your favorite brand is. Again, I like powder form better. I don't like the tablets, and I wanted something that would allow me to choose between a sweetener. This is the unsweetened version. It's an acquired taste. I mean, it's kind of got a salty water flavor to it, but this does help suppress my appetite along with all the protein that I'm taking in, and the pounds just melt off. It's wonderful. So there's a little diet tip there for you, but do it for your oral microbiome, do it for your saliva, and do it for your teeth. I think you'll find that it's an important part of